Alright, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to continue on developing the events page. So continuing on from where we last left off, we were targeting this input right here, ready to style. So first of all, I want to set the width to 100% of the parent. Then also I want to get rid of any default margin that may be applied by the browser. Then also I want to change the padding. So with the padding, I'm going to have the top as 0. Then we have 10 pixels to the right, so we're going to make sure the text doesn't touch the right edge. 0 for the bottom, and then what we have is 40 pixels to the left. And the reason why I've said 40 pixels to the left is so that the text starts after the span. And so that way the text isn't going to go underneath the span, which is going to look incredibly ugly. Then also I want to set the line height, and that way it will actually keep the text away from the edges, and also it will increase the height of the input. So I'm going to set the line height to 59 pixels. Then also we have the border. So first of all, I'm just going to get rid of the border, and that way all the borders are going to be stripped away. But then what I want to do is apply the border right and the border bottom. And the reason being is because if we actually take a look at this, you'll notice that we have a little border right here and a border right here. And so I'm just going to apply that to one element, which is going to be the input. So I'm just going to set the border bottom to 1 pixel solid, and I'm going to set the color to the light grey color. And then I can simply copy that because it's going to be the same for the border on the right hand side, so I say border hyphen right. The next thing I want to do is take a look at the font size. So with the font size, it's going to be 15 pixels. The background is going to be transparent because the parent has the cream color on there, so I might as well just get rid of the background for the input. The outline is going to be set to none because when you actually focus on this input, you'll notice that we have that blue outline. Again, it varies on browsers and operating systems, but I want to get rid of that altogether. And then also we have the color, which is going to be text 1, which is the brown text color. And if I just save this real quick and hit refresh, you'll notice because the width was set to 100% and we had the padding left, which is 40 pixels, which is going to move the text over so it doesn't go underneath the span. The problem is we have that padding to the left and to the right, and of course it's adding on top of that. So what we need to do is factor in the padding when we set the width. So again, I'm just going to have to say @include box sizing, and it will put in those box sizing CSS properties, and I can just save that now, and we can hit refresh. And now you'll notice it is staying to 100% of the parent's width, and also it's factoring in the border width as well, which is very useful. So now that I've gone ahead and done that, the next thing I want to do is take a look at styling up all of the anchors that are nested inside of sub_menu. So again, we're going to say events, then we're going to target the sub menu, and then we're going to target all the anchors inside of there. And once we've done that, we can then take a look at making this display as a block level element because it needs to actually have some mass. I want to set the width to 100% of the parent. I want to set the padding to 20 pixels, which, as you know, if we're going to set the width to 100%, we need to use the box sizing, but I'm just going to leave that out for now. Then the color by default in the non-hovered state is going to be brown. So that's going to be text 1, which is the brown text color. Then also we have the font size, which is going to be 14 pixels. Then also we have the line height. So I obviously want a good distance between each line. So I'm just going to set this to 150%. Again, you can play around with this value. Then also we have the border bottom for each one of these, which is going to be 1 pixel solid, and it's going to be light grey. And so as you can see, there's a border on each one of these. Then also what we have is the box sizing. So again, we're going to include the padding in our actual width. Then also what we have is the transition. So I want it to transition between the normal state and the hover state where it basically turns brown and the text turns white. So I'm just going to say @include transition, and then we want to say all in 0.3 of a second. And then after that, what I want to do is put in the hover state for this. So let's copy this selector, paste it down below, and then take a look at the hover state, which then we can change the background color, which don't forget this will be animated, and the background color is going to be brown, and the font color is going to be text 2, which is the white text color. And if I save that now and hit refresh, there we go. Now the only other thing that we need to do is make sure that the bold text has a line break between it and the text that is not bold. So we have that strong tag nested inside of our anchors. So what I can do is target all those anchors and then look inside of each anchor for the strong element. And then simply what I can do is display as a block level element, and then I can tell it to clear both. And once I've done that, you can just save this now, hit refresh. And then the only other thing what you need to do is think about the mobile version. So always double check your work. So what I'm going to do is then I'm going to open up the menu. Now everything is displaying correctly apart from this span right here. So what we're going to need to do is take a look at our media query inside of here. But don't forget, this is for global styles right now. So what I want to do is just copy out the media query right here. And when SCSS exports, what it will do is it will match up all the media queries and everything else, and it will compress it down. So you don't really have to worry about that. And again, don't forget, this is the development version. So if we have repeated code in here, that's absolutely fine. This is for legibility and so on. So again, we have the max width 900 pixels, and we want to target the span right here. So let's copy out that selector and save ourselves a little bit of time. And once we've done that, what I can do is set the margin top to 50 pixels. So effectively the height of that anchor is 50 pixels, so it's just going to push it down a little bit. So once I've done that, we can save this now, hit refresh, and there we go. Now you'll see the span is in the correct position, and then we can just go back up just like so. Absolutely perfect. So now what I can do is focus my time and attention on the main content area, and we can get rid of this gibberish and display our calendar. So firstly, what we're going to do is take a look at events.php, and what I want to do right now is I want to strip that out, and I want another div that's nested inside of here with the ID of calendar. And so once I've done that, what I can do is save it real quick, and now we can take a look at the JavaScript. So what we're going to do is first of all make sure that we can see a calendar. And that's the most important thing. We're not going to worry about the events or the JSON for now. We just want to view a calendar and then customize it to the look we want it to. And then what we'll do is add the events in later. So what I'm going to do is first of all, we are going to target the element with the ID of calendar. And then we're going to run the plugin full calendar. And once we've done that, you can just open and close the brackets and open and close the parentheses as well inside of there. So inside of the object literal or the parentheses, you can define some options, which I'm just going to save it for now. And then what I want to do is just hit refresh. So you're able to see that we do have our full calendar right now, but there are a few problems because the header is technically incorrect. Number one, I don't want the today button. And also we have the next and previous button. So the next button needs to be on the right side and the previous button needs to be on the left hand side, and in the center needs to be the title. So obviously we're going to need to change that, and also we're going to need to change the actual text of the next and left buttons because we're going to be using the Liger font, and these are special characters right here. So we're going to need to modify that as well. So in order to change a few of the options, we need to go inside of this object right here. And firstly, we want to create the property button text. And text needs to have a capital T. This is very case sensitive. And inside of that property, we want another object. So this is like an object inside of an object. And so inside of there, what we can do is change the text of the previous and next button. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to say prev, meaning previous, and I'm going to change the text. And again, you can refer to the Liger website if you want to find out the actual character and the C data and so forth. So what I can do is copy this out, and we just want to put in a comma right here because we want to change the next button's text, and it's going to be at ampersand 213, and then again we have that semicolon. And once we've done that, what I can do is move on to the header. So as I'm putting in another property in this object right here, what I'm going to do is have to put in a comma, and then down below we're going to put in the header property. And then again, we're going to have an object inside of an object. And then, of course, what we need to do is actually change the arrangement of the header. So first of all, we have three sections: left, center, and right. So we're going to start out with the left section. And in the left section, we want the previous button. So I'm just going to say prev. Then I'm going to put a comma in there. Then we have the center. So I'm just going to say center. And there we want the title, so that's describing the current day, month or week. And then we have the right section, which is going to have the next button to take us into the next month, week or day. And again, you can add in multiple buttons, so you could say next, and so on and so forth, and prev, so you could have them all in one section like they are now. But I don't want that. I just want on the left hand side the previous button, the title in the center, and on the right hand side we're going to have the next button. And again, don't forget we've changed the characters of those two buttons. And I can just save this now and hit refresh. So we have the correct layout for our header, we have the correct characters in the previous and next, but what we now have to do is think about styling this up. And obviously this markup is being generated dynamically, so we're going to need to use some tools that are inside of Google Chrome. Now this tool is also available in Safari as well, and also in Internet Explorer. But however, what you can do is basically open up the inspect window and you can take a look at the DOM structure and the CSS that applies to the DOM structure. And it's a very, very useful tool. But now I want to go to the parent, so that's the div with the ID of calendar, and then you can actually copy the markup out. So what I can do is simply right click and say copy as HTML. And you'll notice that if we go ahead and create a new file and paste this in, it's sort of gibberish to us. This isn't going to help us at all. We need it formatted. So the way you do that is you go to a beautifier. There's a free one here, ctrlq.org/beautify, and this beautifies CSS, JavaScript, PHP, and so on and so forth. And what I can do is paste that in and say format code, and you can see here this looks a lot more beautiful. And then we can paste this in, and I'm just going to make sure that this highlights the text as HTML, and there you go. We can now see the DOM structure very clearly. Take a look at all the classes and so forth that we're going to need to target inside of the CSS. So what I want to do is obviously start out with the header first of all. And so we have the table, and that has the class of FC header. And we can go ahead and collapse this. And then you have another div down below with the actual content. So I mainly want to just focus on the header first of all. So let's copy this class name right here. And then what we can do is go to our SCSS file, and just above the media query we'll carry on from where we last left off with our styling. So we have the FC-header. And what I want to do is set the line height to 60 pixels. That way I can actually determine the height, or the minimum height effectively, of our element with the class of FC-header, because it's going to have text inside of here, and also it'll center the text up vertically. Then once I've done that, I can then set the background color, and it's going to be the same as the side navigation, which is going to be the cream color. Then also what we have is the border collapse, because with a table you sort of have an invisible spacing around the edges and so forth, which we definitely do not want. So I'm just going to say border hyphen collapse is going to be set to collapse. So it will get rid of any spacing and so forth, and then we can just refresh. So at the moment this is not staying to 60 pixels because this right here is the input, and that effectively equals 60 pixels. So what we need to do is sort of get these heights matching, and so in order for us to do that, we're going to need to target all of the child elements, because we have a header 2 in here and so forth, and it's mainly the header 2 that is the culprit right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again target that exact same class, and then I'm going to put a space and put in the asterisk, which means it's going to target all of the nested child elements. And then what we want to do is get rid of the margin and also get rid of the padding as well, and that way we can just reassure ourselves that all of the elements that are inside of here do not have any marginal padding. And so when I hit refresh, now you'll notice that everything comes up nice and flush. So thank you for watching me in this lesson, and join me in the next lesson where we'll continue on developing the events page.